Good afternoon. Welcome to a 15-minute Zoom interview with two of the three musicians in Music Matters October YouTube video, which debuts in just a few minutes. As ticketed viewers, you already have a link that will take you straight to the show. You can watch and listen as often as you like, pause in the middle, and return later. We announce each coming month's episode during the weeks before with links to our Eventbrite ticketing, that is the Grua Eventbrite ticketing, Eventbrite. A single ticket can let your whole family watch, or, as many of our viewers now do, you can support these elegant Grua Center productions by buying a number of tickets. Slowly, ever so slowly, the Grua is coming back to life. You can visit a remarkable new exhibition, Stories of Resilience, Encounters with Racism, 4 days a week between 10 and 2 through late December. Just check the website for details. In a year when concert halls and theaters around the world, not only in America, are dark, it is indeed heartening to hear live music. This afternoon's concert of classical era chamber music by Haydn Mozart gives us a chance to bridge that dark gap, if only online for now. It also allows Music Matters to reach out to a public all of us miss enormously, both in general and personally. You're there virtually, but you're there. And here we are. Cellist Miguel Vasquez can't join us, so a warm welcome to violinist Jesse Holstein on screen, and sitting next to me, pianist MICHAEL BAHMANN. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Well, let's go straight to the questions, which I sent you yesterday and you looked over, and maybe you have a comment or two. Most people credit Papa Haydn with inventing the pianotrio. He liked the form so much that between 1760 and 1797, he wrote 45 of them. What especially drew you to playing the two late ones we recorded for this Music Matters video?
Well, I guess that's a question for me, Michael, since I chose the pieces to play. Well, the earlier ones would not go as well with the instrument that I have. And also, since Jesse and Miguel play modern instruments, the later the pieces are, the more likely they would be able to melt into the sound of the fortepiano that I have and into the style of the later pieces. The earlier the trios are, the more you need, they require period instruments. So
would that be a harpsichord or an earlier piano?
Earlier piano that's much brighter, or even in 70-60, there were still lots and lots of harpsichords around.
Or Tangentenflügel.
Yeah. And once I decided that, it was purely musical considerations that determined the choice to have a varied and beautiful program.
We got you to come and record at La Grua a few days after you had performed these pieces up in Providence. So you had them in your fingers, and that worked out very well. And then we're able to broadcast it this month. By the same token, Mozart wrote so many violin sonatas, or sonatas for pianoforte with violin, as he usually called them, that choosing among the surviving 36 of them is a challenge. What distinguishes the unusual two-movement G major one you're playing here? That's a hard question.
Yeah, no, I think it's very unusual. I mean, it is just two movements, but it's quite expansive in that the introduction, if you will, of the first movement is almost feels like a movement itself.
It's extended.
Yeah, even with repeats, it's quite long. And in fact, when we played it, Miguel, it was the first time he was hearing it, and he thought it almost sounded like a separate movement. And then, the so slow, fast in condensed into one movement, and then also a theme and variations where. Even that's a little unusual in that when the theme returns, that it's at a different tempo than the first time you hear the theme. And
it's almost like 17th century music.
Yeah, and there's even variation where I'm not involved at all. So it truly is a sonata for fortepiano and violin. But yeah, it was a new one for me, and I think it's a fabulous piece. I look forward to playing it more.
While I was recording it, I must say I was thinking, how on earth would this come off on any kind of good modern piano? And I would simply say, very differently indeed.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say, I mean, this was the first time playing I'd played with a fortepiano before, but not a full program, and I really loved it. You know, I always enjoy working with Michael and Miguel, but this is the first time I'd worked with him on a fortepiano, and it was also so fun rehearsing, I should say, at his home, where his home predates the pieces and with the original wood, and so it was just yeah, really fun to rehearse in a 1725 old farmhouse with the original floors.
And we're talking to you
That
from the
was really
1710 Cape. So.
Wow, okay.
But it's worth mentioning, Miguel said that it reminded him a lot of the G minor Beethoven cello sonata, which is also two movement with the G minor and then the G major.
And a wacky organization.
Yes, with a slow introduction, then a fast, stormy G minor part, and then the G major. So it's very similar format.
Michael, Jake Kaiser's beautiful Walter replica is one of the most successful Mozart era pianos I've ever heard, you know, one of the best copies. Its rich sound and long blowing sustain are sheer magic. Any thoughts about the instrument?
I love it. Has me served well. And this is one of the things I like about playing old instruments, that every one of them is different, has its own character and its own difficulties sometimes. You know, even with action or with tuning and so on and so on. But I find it a nice antidote to today's attempts to get everything homogeneous, everything the same. Most of the time, pianists and audience alike, they expect one sound and one sound only. And I find it refreshing and enriching to have lots of variety.
Well, our viewers may wonder about some of the terms. We hear the word fortepiano and the word piano. Well, they're the same instrument. During the 20th century, musicologists and people who were trying to promote early music performance came up with the word fortepiano, which had existed before, but they applied it to anything before the modern instrument. There is no point in history at which one instrument became the other. It's just a convenient name for, if you will, all wood instruments.
Let me add the etymology of the word fortepiano. The first pianos were put into harpsichords, the actions of the piano. They used the case, the strings, everything, just put a different action. And they called it clavicembalo con fortepiano, which means harpsichord with loud and soft, because finally you could vary the loudness of the sound by striking the hammers more softly or harder. That's a very long name, clavicembalo con fortepiano. So then they shortened it to fortepiano, and now in the 20th and 21st century, we ended up with piano, which means actually soft. So hence we have the modern piano,
which is not soft.
No, it can play soft. That's the origin of the word piano.
Well, Jesse, your violinistic approach shows a fine awareness of classical era style, especially in ornamentation and subtle shadings. Still, you're playing a modern violin. How come? And how do you think it comes off in these three works? And did Miguel share any thoughts about that, since he's also playing a modern cello?
Well, I mean, the reason I was using a modern violin is I actually don't own a earlier violin. And, you know, it's interesting. I've always felt very comfortable playing, I don't mean classical music, I just mean classical repertory of, say, Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven. My teacher in high school was a man named Philip Nagley, who had played in the Cleveland Orchestra with George Zell, and then I studied at Oberlin with a Baroque violinist who is a wonderful modern player too. Her name is Marilyn McDonald. So, and particularly with Philip Nagley when I was in high school, he always talked about taste and that, you know, always this sense of decay in Mozart. In fact, he didn't even let me play Mozart until I was a senior in high school because he just thought
what a lovely tactic.
Too difficult. And so I think to a fault sometimes I decay too much. So when I'm playing modern repertoire, I'm often told, "Oh, you're doing too much decay," when I'm playing Brahms or something like that. It just feels natural to me, and I think also playing with the fortepiano, it was also just a necessity that Miguel and I both had to use much more decay on the notes. So rather than da, but coming away, I also chose to hold the bow higher up. If you don't mind, my bow is literally just 3 feet away. I just want to show. Yeah. So.
And of course, people will see this on the video.
Yeah. So the modern bow, and which is quite heavy in comparison to a classical or transitional bow. If I play down here, I can use the frog to get a lot of weight. But if I just move my hand up a little bit, it sort of takes the frog out and just makes it a little lighter. Also, my use of vibrato, I tried not to use like a really rich vibrato all the time, but more just a little bit of sugar rather than the sandwich spread type vibrato. Yeah, I think Miguel and it was a steep learning curve. the first day playing with the fortepiano.
Well, the recorded results are in no danger of being taken for the Franck Sonata, so
Okay,
or a Fauré
that's
trio
good.
or anything like that. To a listener, as well as to this recording engineer, the balance between the three of you in the piano trios is truly natural. If you will, it's organic. What did it take to pull that off as a trio?
Well, I didn't have to do anything. I just played away. I wanted and I could on an instrument, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think also what we were just discussing, I think just the natural sound of the piano. Well, also, I mean, it should be said with the later piano trios of Haydn, the earlier ones, the cello was literally just doubling the left hand for much of it. And I think with the later piano trios, I mean, Michael is still the main event, but I think there is more freedom within the cello. I'm sort of in between. I get melodic materials sometimes. But yeah, just trying to blend with that unique sound of the fortepiano just really forced us to not play with too much core in our string sound, particularly with modern instruments. So what I mean by core is that you hear the center always of the pitch, and rather than, I don't know if this is transferring on this platform, but something with slightly less core just blended more naturally with Michael. So yeah, and I'm sure if we continued to play other programs, it would continue to blend even better.
Well, as a listener, I can say that there were times when between you and Miguel slightly overpowered Michael briefly in a way that felt really good within the score. And of course, Michael occasionally overpowered you. It felt like a good balance. But regardless, all of you were audible all the time. So, you know, congratulations. Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Well, the virus has emptied halls all around the world, and Grua is no exception. Since you played with neither an audience nor even chairs in the bare room, the reverberant acoustic is very wild. Did that pose problems in putting this together for recording?
Well, as Jesse said, we rehearsed in a very small room with wood floors, wood ceilings. When we finally got to a room which had more space, we felt we could breathe, even though we had masks on. So I wasn't shocked at all by the reverberance, and I don't know how you felt, Jesse.
No, it's a beautiful space, and it's just fun to play in a space that does have some reverb, but also it's warm. It was warm. It's a warm sound. It's not just playing in a bathtub or something like that. It was very comfortable. I really enjoyed it. It was my first time being there. Yeah, it's just.
So the room didn't send you any false cues or anything like that. It supported. So it's nice to hear.
Yeah,
it was,
absolutely.
of all the places we played, it was the easiest to play.
Yeah.
You did the Providence concert at the Universalist Church?
No, Unitarian Church.
Unitarian Church. That's a fine acoustic, but it's a bit vaster. And you do have a sense of projecting out into a great space. And then one final question for you. It's unbelievably poignant to experience live music at a time when most people have no access to it. As you were playing, did you have any sense of the listeners, of the audience who are about to hear you on the video people will go to straight from this interview? Listeners in general?
Yeah, I mean, well, first it was such a treat to play some chamber music again, and I think the fact that we were recording it in the space. Yeah, I mean, I do wonder. I've done a number of virtual concerts now, and it is kind of fun to imagine, oh, who's going to hear it, and yeah, I just communing with people in this way. Ideally, obviously, it would be great to do it in person, but I'm so glad we have this to be able just to play some great music and just share it with friends that I just haven't met yet, but I look forward to meeting at some point. But yeah, and I felt nervous too. I got a little nervous when.
Oh, that's good. We wouldn't have wanted that element to go away.
Yeah.
You know, it's an 11-year-old audience at that point. We have many repeat offenders who come again and again. And for them not to be able to come is as poignant for them, some of whom I hope are listening right now, as it is for us who present the concerts and you who play them. So with the help of YouTube and with this outreach that we're still experimenting with, it's been a real delight to reach out to people and know that you three who are silenced, among the many others who come down to record, are reaching an audience who are appreciative and let us know what's going on. I think we'll end with the questions. So thanks, Michael and Jesse. And thank you for joining us for this Music Matters pre-concert interview. We send you our warmest wishes. Enjoy the concert.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.